This is Autoline After Hours with John McElroy and Gary Vasilash, episode 523 for August 27th of 2020. Polestar elbows its way into the EV segment. Watch Autoline After Hours live at Autoline.tv every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 12 p.m. Pacific. You can subscribe to this podcast for free by searching for Autoline in iTunes, Stitcher, or YouTube.
Autoline After Hours is brought to you by Bridgestone Tires, your journey, our passion, and by Borg Warner, propulsion solutions that support a clean, energy-efficient world.
Hey there, Gary.
John, how are you?
Doing pretty good. Hey, I'm sure you got something interesting to bring up.
I surprisingly have something that I think is interesting. So this is something that had a tremendous effect on everything that happened after. And this happened in 1859. Colonel Edwin Drake struck oil in Titusville, Pennsylvania. And that's where it all started. That is where the world became petroleum based. But I think we're going to hear a little bit about how maybe the auto industry is not going to be so petroleum based going forward.
Yeah, or certainly not burning it in engines, maybe using it for plastics and other materials and the like. That's probably not going to go away soon, but you're right. The days of burning it in internal combustion engines, we can see the light at the end of the tunnel here.
That's right. It's a bright light. It's sparking. Ooh, this is getting bad. Let's bring in Joann.
Yeah, hey, Joann Muller, come on in.
Hey guys, how are you?
There she is.
Good to
so
see you
Joann,
again.
just for those who don't know what Axios is, what is Axios?
All right, Axios is the next great media company. We're almost 4 years old. We cover the intersection of politics, tech, and business. I write a weekly newsletter on transportation, the future of transportation. So everything from autonomous electric vehicles to airlines and flying cars and Hyperloop.
Cool.
And people can subscribe to this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So easy enough. It's Axios.com, AXIOS.com. And there's a sign up tab. And we have about 20 different newsletters on a variety of topics on politics or business, science, tech, everything. So, but be sure and pick Navigate because that's the one I write.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the convergence of automotive and technology, we've got to bring in our special guest for today, Gregor Hembrough, who is the head of Polestar North America. Gregor, hello out there, and thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Good afternoon.
So John had Joann talk about what Axios is. Why don't you tell us what Polestar is?
Oh, I'd love to. Thank you. Well, we're actually not as old as Axios. Axios said they were 4 years old. Polestar, as a company, is about to celebrate, its third anniversary. We came as a separate company in October of 2017. Polestar is an electric car company, first and foremost. We are part of the Geely Volvo parent. And the Polestar brand and the Polestar company is really meant to be the guiding star or the North Star, Polestar, in the portfolio of Geely. When you take a look at such things as electrification, when you take a look at such things as technology, innovation, design, that's going to be the role and positioning within the portfolio. Also with performance, obviously, leading the brigade as far as all the attributes go on the product from here and going forward.
Yeah, and make the point too, because and you said it, but there's still a lot of confusion. A lot of people seem to believe, even in the automotive media, that Polestar is just the electric car version of Volvo and completely separate company.
It is. That's not the case. And I can understand that the roots of Polestar started back in the late 90s as part of a racing conglomerate, that Polestar and Volvo did have a lot of synergies as we went through the 90s within the racing circuits with the Swedish Touring Car Championship. Engineering, software downloads, performance orientation, that technology was loaned to Volvo and also collaborated with Volvo through the times. But in 2017, it was broken off to its own individual company, 50% owned by Geely, 50% owned by Volvo. And I have to tell you, it's been a very, very nice matrimony. And I think that for those that have driven the product, hopefully you can see the testimony in that as well.
So this is not an AMG version for Volvo.
No, it's not. It's a separate company altogether. So our technology, we also share in some respects with Volvo. So as an example, you could go to a Volvo dealership and find something such as a Polestar engineered vehicle, which would be examples of Volvo XC60, a Volvo S60, and to that end, have an ability to see enhanced performance from suspension, software downloads for mapping of software and things of that nature. But we are a separate company, and we are only owned by 50% by Volvo, and as I said, 50% Geely. So it is an individual board, an individual management team.
Gregor, you've got a Polestar 2 in the background. I think all of us have driven it. Joann, have you driven the car?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've all driven it.
Yeah.
And boy, is it getting a lot of media coverage. You know, everybody's talking about the car right now. My question, though, is how about orders? You know, are you getting customers putting orders in? Where's that stand right now?
We are. We have a very good order bank as we speak right now. We've been very modest with our expectations. I don't think that it's a surprise to anything that 2020 has been a very challenging year for the automotive sector. I think it's touched everybody. We have a very modest order bank, but with that being said, we're meeting expectations. We actually start deliveries this September of the product. So as we shared a lot with the press reviews, is the cars are actually already on the water and making their way into the U.S. ports as we speak. And then we start our distribution to the customers in September. So the first cars will be on the road within 30 days already. And this is the successor to the Polestar 1, not in body style or propulsion type. But the one thing I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about was the other car that we're also proud of, was the Polestar 1, which is the first product off of the Polestar brand and the Polestar company. And that car was released to U.S. customers earlier this year. Very, very bespoke, $155,000 carbon fiber, 619 horsepower hybrid. So those customers are taking possession, and they have been through the last couple of months. So concurrently, both Polestar 1 and Polestar 2s will be going into the customer base as we approach September.
Gregor, I'm very curious, how hard is it to launch a brand from scratch, especially in this environment right now where, you know, people just are hunkered down?
Yeah, I'll answer in a couple different ways. First, I'll start off with saying is that we've been very fortunate. The COVID crisis took place in China early on. Our production plan for Polestar 2 was going to be March, and it continued to be March. By that time, that window of the pandemic peaking within China and processes to keep our employees healthy and procedures to keep them healthy really had very little impact on the production ramp up with it. So from a production point of view, we were, quite frankly, great timing, good plans in place, protecting our employees, and we were able to ramp up of the product just about on time, very little minimal. From a commercial end, a horse of a different color. We started off our launch more or less this year with the Precept in 2020, which is our concept car in Geneva. And we actually had a team in Geneva working through the launch of the Precept. And at that point, we actually got word that the Geneva show was going to be canceled. And from there on in, everything sort of had to take a different course. Within a week, we found ourselves leaving the office. So my team were then all of a sudden uprooting themselves from a very tight-knit startup type of mentality within the office here to working out of their home offices. So we challenged ourselves in that respect. Fortunately, I think that with today's modern technology, we haven't lost a beat. Moving forward, then we had to take a look at what our marketing plans were. We had a very, very robust marketing plan, not only from a traditional media point of view, but also from high engagement. Launching a new brand, Joann, we wanted to make sure that our customers were able to interact not only with the brand, but also get behind the wheel of the car. Test drives, of course, to me are very paramount, specifically when you're talking about not only a new product, but a somewhat new propulsion system. We want to ensure that. naturally all that had to be put on the back burner as the pandemic specifically was in our mindset of customers weren't leaving their houses, and even if they were very, very cautious about where they went and what they did when they left the house. So for all intents and purposes, we've really started our big media push this June. So only about 60 days ago that we've actually started our media, our consumer test drives, our press drives, and all that coming together. So to answer your question, it's been a little bit of a tale of two cities. It's been extremely challenging to launch a brand in this circumstances. But the good news is that we really have not been affected by production to any great deal. The other component of this is our retail partners. So the other thing I'd like to debunk, because I think a lot of maybe misnomers around is that we're direct to customer. We're direct to customer in a digital sense. So when a customer goes on and they want to learn about the product, they actually have an ability to order the car online. But we will continue with the traditional retail franchise system. So we have franchise partners. And the point, John and Joann, is that those partners, we want to ensure that they were safe, that they remained profitable, but at the same time, they had another portfolio of their main products that they represented, whether it be a Volvo, whether it be whatever brand that's represented in the market too. And you could imagine that they wanted to make sure that their core business remained profitable and running on it and protecting their employees. So there was a couple of months of delays before we got activated. All told, we're running probably about 60 to 75 days behind schedule. Still on deliveries, still a good customer bank. And I think in this particular circumstances, I'll take that.
Gregor, you mentioned the Polestar 1, $155,000, but the Polestar 2 is nowhere near that. Tell us about where that is for consumers.
Polestar 2 is starting at $59,900 before any federal or state incentives. So we're eligible for $7,500 of federal incentives. So that actually comes off of the MSRP. And then depending on what state you have, we can have anything up to $2,200 of state incentives as well. So in our popular states where we're seeing EV demand, such as New York or such as California, you're looking at about $50,000 by the time you actually put one in your driveway, which we feel based on the content of the vehicle. And I'll get a little bit more onto the product because I'm very proud of it, and I know you witnessed it. But for all intents and purposes, there are no options on the car. It comes fully equipped with a pilot assist program. It comes fully equipped with all the technology from human-machine interfaces to the Google technology to power seats, all the things that you traditionally select upwards when you go to select a car, all standard content on it. So very easy for a customer to navigate. And right now we feel it's an extremely good value in the market. It's one of the things that I'll also share with you that if you've taken the drive in the car, that's extremely, I would say, innovative and the world's first is the Google Android embedded technology. So this is having a Google Assistant in your vehicle. So everything from actually activating the assistant to navigate where you want to go with the vehicle, to actually asking it to turn up the climate system, turn down the climate system, make phone calls. All those things are very, I would say, intelligent with the respect that it's very easy for the customer to interact on it. I think what we learned very early on is that automobile manufacturers are very good at making cars, but when it comes down to voice recognition and embedded technology that supports that, we saw that the likes of Google were actually setting the standards in the industry, and why wouldn't it be relevant to team up with them to move forward with this?
So this is well beyond the Android Auto that many people are offering in their vehicles.
Yes, this is well beyond it. It's integrated. You don't need an Android phone as an example. It's compatible with, you can pair it up with any of your phones, but this technology is inbuilt into the interface of the car. There are apps that you're able to download. So things such as Spotify, things such as streaming broadcasts for podcast, anything of that nature, from making your driving experience a little bit easier, additional maps. Those are all apps that will be available on the Android embedded system as well. So it is like having a giant connected tablet that will interact with you and the car.
Hey, we've got a question here from Tony, who points out that one of the great advantages that Tesla has is it built its own charging network. He wants to know, what's Polestar going to have?
Polestar will be teaming up with one of the large charging infrastructures in the US right now. We're working on the final, I would say, details of that. But we will have, when the customer goes to purchase the vehicle, we'll actually have that vendor recommended as a home charging solution, and also through your charging networks within the US marketplace.
Do you feel that people are over the whole range anxiety with electric cars, or is that still a factor?
I think it's still a factor, Joann, but I think it's becoming less of a factor. Really dovetailing into the question that was just asked, I think that as the charging infrastructure becomes a little bit more ubiquitous, and also the charging times become quicker, that the range anxiety becomes a little bit more and more minimalized. I have to look to mobile phones and experiences within the mobile phones that, today a phone could easily go a day without charging. And I think for most people's schedules, that's enough. Whether if you actually came out with a phone that said 2 days or 3 days, I'm certain that it would only add incremental volume, because charging times now are very, very quick on these phones, and everyone carries around a charger or has an ability to plug in somewhere. My view is that it's still present, but I think it's eroding more and more as, again, the home chargers come down, as the networks become stronger, and as the charging times become quicker in the cars.
Hey, here's another question from a viewer. Big Barney wants to know, can your Polestar 2 download updates, just like Tesla does with over-the-air?
Yes, Barney. The over-the-air updates will be available on Polestar 2. So very much like the other manufacturer you just spoke about, we'll have everything from software updates to even if there's any sort of enhancements that need to be put into the car along the life cycle of it, it can be downloaded, which will actually obviously elevate customer satisfaction in our view and reduce the traditional workshop visits.
Gregor, let me ask, you've got a new company, a new car, which is basically using, by and large, new technology. How do you convince someone that Polestar is the brand they should buy?
Yeah. Couple of ways I go about this right now, Gary, is while we're a new brand, I also like to think that we're a bit of a 93-year-old startup. And the reason why I say that is that while we are a separate company from Volvo, we simply don't run away from being proud that it's one of our siblings and one of our parents at the same time period. So when you look at the fit and finish of the car, when you look at the engineering that's gone into the vehicle, when you look into the safety that's gone into the vehicle, these are all attributes that have been honed by our colleagues in Volvo for many, many years. That cascades itself into such things as sales and distribution routes, industrial system, So the youngness of this brand of only being 3 years old, it comes with it with a very, very large basket of knowledge that we've gleaned from our siblings as well. Then to go forward with it, I think that it brings, as far as from a customer offer, it brings not only an EV offer to it, but it also brings a lot of innovation and technology to the offer plate as well. And when we talk about who the customer are and where they're going to be coming from, I think that you just have to be a quick student of the industry to see that while the auto segment might have been contracting this year, the EV segment is still remaining quite strong. And I believe that as we see ourselves go into the latter half of the year and into next year, many, many forecasts continue to see that the EV segment will continue to grow. And I think naturally that's not only because of customer mindset, but also because the product's becoming stronger and stronger in its offer. Less and less compromises, more and more conversion from people with internal combustion engines that would be moving over to EVs as we go forward.
Gregor, we've got another question, comment kind of thing from Jeff Taylor from St. Louis, Missouri. He points out he's a Tesla Model 3 owner, and this is interesting. He says he's glad to see there's a true alternative coming from Polestar. Here's his two questions. He wants to know, where are they going to be sold? Is it in all Volvo markets or what? And then secondly, what do you have to compare with autopilot and full self-driving?
Right. Great questions. Let me start off with the first one. Polestar is available nationwide right now. We will be actually setting up what we call Polestar spaces, which will be small boutique facilities that a customer can go and validate the product, engage with the Polestar specialist, test drive the product as well. We will start with those spaces. As an example, when we launched the brand, just to answer your question a little bit more, Joann, we can't be everywhere from day one as far as a physical location. We have a very strong and robust rollout for 2020 and 2021 and 2022. But naturally, you'll go where the biggest demand is. So when you take a look at where those segments are, where the infrastructures are, where the state incentives are, you don't have to look too hard to understand that it's certain states such as California, it's New York, and then we start to fill in the states in between very, very quickly. To answer this gentleman's question, the car can be purchased anywhere online. It'll be actually teamed up with a Volvo retailer who has authorization to merchandise and sell a Polestar vehicle through a Polestar space, and the cars will be home delivered. So you have an opportunity to pick it up the space, or in this gentleman's, if he's outside the obviously a radius of what might be convenient for him, our retail partners will deliver the vehicle to him, and that goes for service as well. They'll do pickup and delivery for service. The other question, I believe, was somewhere around the pilot assist or the autopilot as well. We are taking a little different approach to this. We are looking right now at a pilot assist, which is a little bit, I would say, much more of a traditional. We have lane keeping assist. We have obviously auto stop. We have highway mitigation as far as keeping the control in front of the car as well. To say that we're working right now on level 4 autonomous drive is not something that we're bringing to the market at this point. So if you take a look at what Tesla's saying that they offer in the marketplace versus what we feel comfortable we're saying, there is a difference between the two.
Gregor, the Polestar 1 is a hybrid vehicle. The Polestar 2 is a fully battery electric vehicle. Going forward, will Polestar have a mix, or will you just dedicate to one technology?
One technology going forward. Everything going forward will be full BEV, full battery electric in the future. So we have spoken thus far about Polestar 3, which obviously comes after Polestar 2. I won't get into timing too much, but we've actually come out and said that it will be an SUV, 5-passenger SUV with a coupe-like roofline. From a timing perspective, we'll get Polestar 2 launched, get it rolling, get it out to the customers, and then we'll start talking about Polestar 3.
Gregor, every time a new EV comes out, the media says, it's going to be a Tesla killer, and none of them have turned out to be Tesla killers. I'm sure you don't even want to call yourself a Tesla killer, but how do you think you're going to stack up against the company long run? Because clearly right now you're just getting going and they're well down the path, but long run, how do you think you're going to stack up against them?
Well, first off, I think that there's room for both. There's room for many EV manufacturers in the marketplace. I think that the segment goes to what I said before. It's going to continue to expand, and that expansion is only going to be driven by more players and even traditional players moving into the EV segment with an EV offer, whether it be e-tron or the eyes for the BMW as well. Our view will be something different. We want to ensure that this car is a total sum. So if you take a look at the Polestar 2, for example, is it the fastest EV in the marketplace right now? No, it's not.
But it's wicked fast.
It is. 4.4 seconds is wicked fast. I mean, when you look back 2 years ago, we're at supercar territory, or more or less, before that goes in there. But of course, you see 2.9 seconds, you see 3.2 seconds. That's not going to be our offer in the marketplace. It'll be a vehicle which is going to be, as I said, it's going to be very well-rounded. It's going to have acceleration. It's going to have range. It's going to have an incredible level of quality, fit and finish. It's going to be obviously fitting the needs from a versatility point of view for the customer. So no, we're not going to be a Tesla killer. I think I can understand why people draw comparisons, but the same way is, we don't go after and saying that we're going to be a BMW or an Audi killer. The marketplace has enough demand for all these players in the segment. We will be a Tesla alternative the same way as that we'll be a BMW and Audi alternative, despite them having perhaps a majority of different propulsion system. And in the long run, we'll continue to put on innovative, technology-driven cars, which look magnificent and have a high level of fit and finish. And of course, we'll continue to strive to be extremely competitive when it comes to those things that we feel from a performance sector matter. But it'll be done a little bit in our way. And that means that it'll be no one single attribute is going to be, except perhaps safety, because that is part of our heritage, we'll be owning. Will be, again, something that's going to be far more well-rounded as far as attributes go.
Do you anticipate that you'll share any of your EV technology with Geely or with Volvo?
Yes, I think that one of the roles within the portfolio, as I started with, is to be the leader in technology and innovation. And there is no doubt in my mind that some of this will be carried back to other siblings in the future as well, Joann.
Gregor, right now, EVs are a very small segment of the entire market. What's your outlook in terms of the growth? I mean, where do you see EVs? I mean, yours as well as everyone else's in 5 to 10 years. I mean, is it gain traction?
It gains traction, I think, through segment penetration. If I look at what's happened to the sales rate this year, I believe we're on track for somewhere around another 17 million a year. And depending on what you're looking at right now, when you're looking at it, we're vacillating anywhere between 14 to 15 million. But that segment penetration continues to hold from an EV, and it's showing clear indicators that it will continue to grow. I believe to just about 2 to 2.2% this year, up from 1.5 to 1.8% last year. As we move forward and you have more and more players with more and more competitive segments, I think, and then to talk about what we spoke about before, the ubiquity of charging infrastructures, the better product coming on, that the segment is bound to grow and will be part of that. So I think that EV will continue to grow as a segment, and naturally as part of that, the brand will grow also with its volume as well.
Tell me this, it's been on sale in Europe already, right? And if so, what are you learning from what you've seen happen in Europe?
Learning a lot. I think one of the things that we're learning right now is some teething problems, to be quite candid with you, about the flow through, John, is this is when you start a product and you've had it on sale for as many months as we have, the product comes all at once. So if you look at a traditional network, they might sell 100, 150 cars a month. But when you have 300 of them arrive at one time, there's a lot of lessons to be learned on how to simplify the flow of the vehicle, how to simplify the flow to the handover of the customer as well. So it's one of the things is that we're learning is from a sales and distribution network, a better way to get to the customer quicker and a more efficient way to get to the customer quicker. These are people that have been waiting for the vehicle. We want to make sure that they start enjoying it as soon as possible. So those are one of the things I've learned from a basic point of view. From a technology point of view, a lot of the things we're just reconfirming as far as what we suspected as range, as car behavior. Not a lot of surprises at this point, really, right now. Pleasantly surprised. Very, very good.
Gregor, so one of your parent companies, Volvo, is going to begin offering electric vehicles in the U.S. market. So how does that all work out?
Yeah, they're going to be offering, the first product is the XC40 Recharge. We've done a lot of research on where is this car going to sit, and will it be competing or cannibalizing or vice versa with the Polestar 2. And when you really start getting down to psychographics of who this customer is, we still see a divide between the two customers. The Volvo customer, lifestyle-oriented, adventure-oriented, the Polestar customer, technology, innovative, first early adopter, opinion leader type of mentality and psychographic as well. Price positioned, I don't really know what the Volvo Recharge is going to be coming out right now. I don't think that they've revealed that to the marketplace, but we will be priced differently, different level of content, a little bit different offer. So I believe, as well as I just talk about Tesla, there's going to be enough room in the market for each one of those. And then when we move into future product, Gary, I think you're going to see a very big change in the role and positioning of the two brands as we move forward. So as an example, I spoke about when we opened up the conversation about being technology, design, performance, innovation. You'll see that red line or that red thread continue at even more so as we continue on our exploration into Polestar 3 and onward.
Yeah, it's going to be fun watching how you expand the model range there. This is going to be very interesting to watch. And with that, Gregor, we're going to wrap up this part of the show. Thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure.
It's fascinating to see a new brand, new company coming into the market.
Thank you very much for your time. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Real good. We'll be back in a moment talking all things automotive, but first a shout out to our good sponsor, BorgWarner.
The world is changing at an ever-increasing pace. No matter what the mode of transportation, there is always the need for an efficient propulsion system. And that's exactly what BorgWarner has been doing since the earliest days of the automotive industry. We create innovative mobility technologies that reduce energy consumption and emissions while improving performance. Our proven track record has made us an industry leader in forward-looking propulsion solutions for combustion, hybrid, and electric vehicles.
And we're back. So, Joann, you drove the car, Joann. What'd you think about it?
Oh, it was really fun. I thought it was fantastic. Electric cars are so much more fun than anybody realizes. They have this impression, perhaps, of golf carts, unless you've driven a Tesla, or a handful of others. But I had a great time driving out in the Ypsilanti, Ann Arbor area, and I will say this: that it still has a Volvo flavor. If you ask me, the
too much so, I think.
Yeah, they've said that the next one will be much more independent, but it looks like an advanced version, high-tech version of a Volvo to me. But that said, I love Volvo, so I thought it was great. Had a big screen like Volvo does. This Google Android operating system is pretty cool. They're the first ones, I think, to have it in the United States, right? Or
I think that's right, as
right.
the operating system.
Yeah.
As Gary had pointed out, not to be confused with Android Auto or Apple CarPlay.
Right, yeah.
It's interesting, Joann, that you mentioned how much fun it is to drive an electric vehicle, and people may not think that's the case. And it was interesting yesterday on a call, Dustin Kraus, who is the head of e-mobility for Volkswagen Group of America, was talking about the forthcoming ID4, which will be officially introduced next month. And it was interesting that he said one of the advantages he believes that they have is that Volkswagen has about 600 dealers across the country, and they'll have the opportunity to bring people in for test drives. And, and so, like, as you're saying, once you drive one of these things, it's just so damn much fun. You're going to be really, really interested perhaps in going full on and buying a vehicle like that.
I think my next car could be an electric vehicle for sure. Especially since we never go anywhere anymore,
so no more range anxiety.
Yeah. Just watch
Thank you, COVID.
In. Yeah.
Right. The one danger I see for them is all their vehicles are being made in China, Polestar.
Yeah.
And
I wanted to ask that question.
Trump has threatened to raise tariffs on Chinese companies. And I wouldn't be surprised, if Biden gets elected, he does the same thing. Then what are they going to do?
Maybe they'll make them in South Carolina. I don't know.
At the Volvo plant, maybe.
Yeah. But that's a lot of money and a lot of investment. And who knows, what the demand is going to be yet. So I think it's a very big risk for any company, especially one who's just importing their cars entirely. Right now, I think the Polestar 2 is made in Sweden, but the Polestar 3, or in the future, the Polestar 2 is going to be in China. I forget, but maybe it's just Polestar 1 right now is coming out of Sweden.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Gary, do you know?
I believe Joann is correct that Polestar 1 Sweden and Polestar 2 China.
Okay.
Yeah.
It could be just opposite, but by and large, they're made somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right.
So Gary, you always got a list of things that we should be talking about. What you got on your list?
Well, one of the things that I thought was sort of interesting, and this is the perhaps new model of the way people are going to get vehicles, perhaps. And so Porsche announced this week that it is expanding its Porsche Drive such that before it was you were able to switch out as often as you wanted. Now they've got this new program where it's limited in terms of your switch. And so I started looking into this and to see the companies that are doing that. And I want to get you guys' reaction to this. So Porsche Drive is available in Atlanta, Las Vegas, LA, Phoenix, and San Diego. And the cheapest thing you can get into is for $1,500 a month. And it goes up to $2,600 a month. Then you've got Access by BMW. And you've got three ranges there. It's basically $1,000, $1,400, or $2,700 a month, and that's only in Nashville. The aforementioned Volvo has Care by Volvo, and it's available in all states except for California, Florida, Hawaii, Mississippi, North Carolina, North Dakota, New York, and South Dakota. I don't know why. And so basically, they're talking about $700 to $750 a month. Then there's Audi Select. And Audi Select is only available in Dallas, Fort Worth. And so I thought this was interesting. They have two tiers. So there's the Core Collection, and then there's the Premier Collection. So the Core Collection is basically $1,000, and the Premier is $1,500. But interestingly enough, there's a wait list for the Core Collection. So meaning there are more people who want the more economical plan. Then there's Mercedes-Benz, the Mercedes-Benz Collection, which again is available in Nashville. I don't know what's with Nashville, and Atlanta, which of course is where Mercedes is based. And and they have a variety of levels as well, which will take you from basically $1,100 to $3,000. Now here's the interesting thing. There is only one mainstream manufacturer that has a service like this. It's Nissan. And it's the Nissan Switch, but it's only available in Houston. And
not in Nashville where they're headquartered in the
yeah,
US.
I mean it's just and so they have a variety of tiers. So it's $700, $900, and if you get a GTR, it's $100 a day on top of the $900 you're paying. All right, so here's my question: Is this a viable model for OEMs to be chasing this subscription service?
Well, I think they're trying everything, right? Because I think their core model is threatened for a variety of reasons that usually begin with Uber and Lyft. But I think that interest in car ownership is waning a bit. I mean, we can debate that, whether young people are going to want to buy cars and so forth. There's a company that I actually think has a good model. You're familiar with FAIR, FAIR. They're in California and Florida, the only two states that this works. But what they're doing is
not Nashville.
Not Nashville. But what they're doing is leasing a used car, right? So you get that late model car for a lot less, and it's sort of an open-ended subscription. So you pay this monthly fee, you get everything wrapped into it, just like you do with the Porsche or the Volvo, other systems like that. But it's way more accessible to mainstream people. I think about $400, between $400 and $700, I think. Now, it's not going to be a fancy Porsche, that's for sure. But I'm becoming much more basic in my automotive needs lately. I just feel like there's so many options. You don't necessarily need a fashion statement or a luxury model necessarily to get you where you want to go.
That's a great point, Joann. Wasn't FAIR started by Scott Painter?
It's one
the
of
guy who started TrueCar.
Yeah. He's had a lot of them, and basically it's a finance company is what it is. But he owns all these cars, which is why it's only expanded, in 2 states so far. You can't carry all those cars in your books, or you become a car rental agency like Hertz, and look where they are now.
Well, they had other issues that started with their CEO.
Yeah.
But, you talk to any car dealer, they would love to be able to lease used cars. I mean, they can set up a finance operation and do it themselves, but they would love the OEMs to step in with their captive finance companies and start being able to offer leases on used cars. The OEMs don't want to do it because they're afraid it's going to steal new car sales.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you looked lately at the price of used cars? And the used car prices are up a lot. And we're in this very weird moment right now because of the coronavirus. There's sort of this confluence of events that made put all the bargaining power in the car dealer's hands right now and not the buyer. So if you're going to be in the market for a used car, be prepared to pay and take what you can get.
Well, in your reporting, Joann, have you found that the reason that that's the case is because people are not perhaps as economically able to buy new cars, and therefore they're more interested in used cars, and that's just completely, driven up the demand for the used cars? And
well, that's one reason. But remember, so what you had factories closed for 2 months. So the new car supply is low, which pushes some people into the used car market. Then you have people who are a little worried about their economic situation, and so they're looking for a lower price alternative too. But keep in mind that the supply of used cars is really low because nobody was buying the new cars in the spring, and so there were no trade-ins. And so it's just like this wheel that has spun up in such a unique way. I mean, we've never seen anything like this right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey, Gary,
Deloitte
going back to your question about subscription services, we just did one of our TV shows with Anders Gustafsson, who's the head of Volvo in the U.S. And we asked him about, Care by Volvo. And they're actually expanding the program. They tripped and fell over a few things, which largely centered around franchise laws. And when you listed all the states where subscription services are not available, I'll bet if you dug into it, it's all got to do with franchise laws in those states. But one of the points that he made why he's so bullish on subscription is it's bringing in a new customer to Volvo, a much younger customer too. And while Volvo's traditional customers tend to be over 50 years old, the ones who are coming in to use Care by Volvo, the subscription service, he said are in their 30s. And so it's bringing new people into the brand, and he's all gung-ho on it.
what did he say happens to those cars after the subscription runs out?
Yeah, so and this ties in with our talk about used cars. They move them into used cars. Now, their original plan, we didn't get into enough details of it, but their original plan was, let's say you subscribe for a year, you bring the car back, and their plan then was to lease it out or subscribe it out as a used car at a lower price. Right now, what they're doing is putting it right into their used car lots. The dealers are, because they're so hungry for used cars.
Joann, this sort of goes to your point that Deloitte just came out with a survey that indicated that 50% of car owners that were planning on buying a car have decided that they will stick with their existing vehicles before buying a new vehicle. So, again, nothing coming into the thing. And then the conference board came out with some research which basically said consumer confidence declined in August for the second consecutive month. And so while things seem to be going in the proper direction in terms of the pent-up demand for autos, do the factors of people saying, gee whiz, I think I better hang on to this car, as well as this economic uncertainty, which seems to be existing out there in the market, is that going to have, big implications? I mean, Gregor was mentioning that he sees this as being a 17 million year. Are we going to get there?
I think in January it was looking like a 17 million year. I actually talked to Bob Carter from Toyota today, and he said that they're expecting a good fall and that they think they're going to end up, I think he said 15.8. He's looking for the industry, which is ordinarily a great, a good year, a strong year. Anything above 15 is usually pretty good. But here's the thing. I think we're in a little bit of limbo right now, waiting to see what happens in Washington, because a lot of the reason that people went out and bought cars in the summer was because they got those $1,200 stimulus checks, like another tax refund. Plus, even the people who were unemployed were getting $600 extra a month, and they might be saying, I can afford this right now. So it depends on whether we get more stimulus. Think about just one industry, the airline industry. Is about the end of September, their federal support expires. So all these tens upon thousands of airline employees are going to lose their jobs October 1st. And I think, there's a lot of industries that are trying to figure out, can we hang on or not? And I think it could go either way. I really do. And I think a lot depends on what happens in Washington. And right now, there ain't nothing happening.
Yeah,
Right.
That's for sure. Hey, we got to take another quick commercial break. We'll be back in a second. But first, a shout out to our good friends at Bridgestone. All right. Gary, what else is on your list? Or did we wrap up everything that you had us
No, I was
talking
just going to
about?
add a little color to what Joann was saying about the airlines. Yesterday, American Airlines announced that they're going to shrink by 30%, which basically would mean approximately 19,000 people would lose their jobs. And last month, United said that they would furlough as many as 36,000 people. So, again, here's a whole lot of people that are not going to be buying cars, whether they're new or used or otherwise.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying, it's. I think we're in grave danger still here as far as the economy goes. And there, in August, there have been some significant signs that things are slowing down, even in the car business. Prices have normalized a little bit, and I think it's going to be kind of week to week to see which way the wind is blowing, and also what the leadership does in Washington.
So I want to sort of like segue back sort of to this whole EV phenomenon thing. So ExxonMobil, after 92 years, gets taken off the Dow Jones average. Within this decade, it had been the leading company on the globe, okay? And now it's been taken off and replaced by Salesforce.com. In the second quarter, Shell lost $18.3 billion, BP lost $16.8 billion, Total lost $8.4 billion, and Chevron lost $8.3 billion. Okay, so are we looking at perhaps more electrification, or is this just simply COVID?
I don't know. What do you think, John?
Well, look, I think it's very significant. Or it's a historic inflection point to see Exxon taken off the Dow. And of course, the Dow is supposed to be a basket of different companies that represent the U.S. economy so that you can track how the economy is doing via a stock market index. And hey, oil is old tech. That's not what's driving the economy anymore. It's companies like Salesforce. It's companies like Tesla, which looks like it's going to get to be part of the NASDAQ. And so, yeah, we're seeing a historic shift in a whole bunch of things. And it's not just technology. It's in stock indexes that want to decide which company should be on to give a more accurate reflection of what the American economy is doing.
So, Joann, are the tech companies really an accurate reflection of what's going on in the U.S. economy?
Well, I don't think so at all. I mean, it's really like, Facebook and Netflix and Apple that are having these phenomenal run-ups in their shares, Tesla among them. But most companies are not. And so it's kind of, odd. President Trump talks a lot about how great the stock market is doing, but it's really a handful of companies that are driving that. So you got to, like everything, you got to dig a little deeper to fully understand it. But I will say, in regard to ExxonMobil, I mean, I do think we're at an inflection point, a tipping point for electric vehicles. We've been talking about this tipping point for a while, and it's often tied to the cost of batteries so that it's equivalent to the cost of an internal combustion engine. It's only 2% of the market right now, but it just feels like we're, climbing to the top of that roller coaster, and boom, we're about to see a lot more electric vehicles and people buying them too. I think I'm kind of bullish on electric cars.
John, didn't Elon say something about coming out with a new battery that would have more density, so it would have more capability in a smaller package?
Yeah, as you guys know, they use these batteries that are referred to as 2170s. It used to be 1879 or something. Anyway, what he's saying is this new one, Panasonic has figured out how, and maybe working with Tesla, I don't know. He didn't. It was a tweak. There wasn't a whole lot of information, but yeah, he's talking about the energy density almost doubling, or up by 50% certainly, and that's a significant increase. Now, like all these great things that Elon Musk announces, it's not going to be around for 3 to 4 years. And so, we shouldn't get too excited yet, but what it shows is there definitely is big improvements being made in the batteries.
We're entering we're already in this super innovative period for batteries and battery chemistry right now. The last couple of years have been like exploding, and the progress has been really great. And you look at like what Lucid Technologies announced with their Air. It's like what was the mileage or the range on that? It was like
517, I think.
Yeah, it was huge, and it's because they believe they've designed a super efficient battery system. And then you look at what GM has done, and they probably don't get enough credit for what they're doing with their electric battery technology, along with LG Chem. And we're really seeing some great innovation. I think there's like this exciting new race right now on battery technology.
So what becomes of all of the people who are developing internal combustion engines? Do they cease to exist, or what?
Hey,
they join the guys at United and American?
I hope not. I actually saw a little piece I think it was in Inside EVs today, that the entire Corvette engineering team at GM Chevrolet has moved into the electric vehicle team. Not necessarily because Corvettes are going electric, although they probably will eventually, but it's more just because these are some of their best performance engineers, and they want them on the electric vehicle team. I find that an interesting signal, kind of like ExxonMobil getting kicked off.
Yeah, but think about it. I mean, performance these days, you can't beat electric with an internal combustion engine. If you're going for raw performance, you can't do it. I mean, electric's just going to beat you every time. You can get into range and cost discussions, but if you just want pure performance, electric's the way to go. And if the Corvette's going to be the ultimate performance vehicle from GM, it's got to go electric at some point.
Yeah, I agree.
But so the question that I have is that, okay, there's a report that came out this week, for example, that Rivian is benchmarking Bentley and Lamborghini and people like that for interiors, so that it'll provide a very luxurious cabin for the people who get one of their SUVs or pickup trucks. And John, you just mentioned, performance and Corvette having performance. And I sort of wonder, as we're hearing about like Volkswagen's plans for the ID3, which we're not going to get here, or the ID4, I mean, it seems to be more of a mass market vehicle rather than, wow, we're going to have these really bitchin' numbers on it, and you're going to be in this thing, it's to be in a lap of luxury. It's more like, a normal vehicle. So do both win? I mean, are both going to be getting sales, or is one going to perhaps be more important than the other?
Well, look, there's so many different tastes and needs in the marketplace. This is one of the reasons why EVs are growing. We're seeing more and more different kinds of models, crossovers and sedans and, high performance versions. Soon we're going to have trucks. We're going to have SUVs. As the public is given more and more choice, they're going to choose increasingly to go electric. So that's what the real message is you need many different kinds of things. So it's not as if EVs are only going to go super high performance or they're only going to be little city cars. They're going to be all that and everything in between.
What do you think, Joann?
I agree. I mean, I really do. I think there'll be, an EV for every person purpose.
To quote a phrase.
You know where that comes from.
Alfred Sloan is smiling somewhere.
Yeah, right.
I'm not sure where, but
yeah. I mean, I think affordability is still an important issue, though. I mean, I think, but the more of these high-end cars that win over, buyers, eventually everything trickles down as it does in all luxury features and technologies in any car.
But I would add affordability actually doesn't just impact the consumer, it impacts the car company too. Because I still don't believe if an EV is priced under $40,000 in US or Europe or Japan, that an automaker can make a profit on it.
Is it just because of the battery cost?
Exactly right.
Well, though, I think you get the volumes and, there's a lot fewer of all those other parts that go into it. It's actually a very simple car, right? And
it
so,
is. Look, if you could take the battery out of the equation, an EV is much cheaper than an ICE car without its powertrain, much cheaper. But you got the battery. And even though the cost of the battery is coming down and there's some really exciting news out there, as of right now, I personally believe anything that's $40,000 or cheaper, they're losing money on them.
Yeah. Well, I think GM and their ambitious plan is going to be a huge test, right? Because they want to sell 1 million of these around the world within not too long of time. So we'll see if they can deliver and bring the cost down. And same with Elon Musk. His volumes are going up significantly.
Yep.
Joann, is your reporting, are you finding that we may be going to different modes of transportation? People are talking about micro-mobility and the last mile and this sort of thing that, so since, ExxonMobil's been on the Dow, we've basically had a monoculture, right? Everybody bought a car or a pickup truck and that was it. Do you see, as you're looking around the country, that there are changes going on, or is this just a lot of smoke?
It depends on where you live, right? So cities have been very big on bike sharing and scooters in particular, a little bit of, oh my God, what do you call the little mopeds? But, what's interesting is that the coronavirus has changed that magnet of a city. People that used to were flocking to cities to be near their work or to be around all the things that urban life offers. Now we're moving out of cities, and it's a huge question whether or not that will continue. And I think mobility sort of hinges on that. But mobility is so important to our economy, and nobody ever appreciates this. And so wherever you live, you have to have ways to get there. I'll tell you a funny story. The other day, I was playing tennis here in my town, and a lady was going by on a scooter, and she was like a middle-aged lady. And another middle-aged lady stopped her and said, "What are you doing? How can you ride that thing? It's so stupid." And, I was like, you don't know anything about this lady. Maybe that's the only way she has to get anywhere. And to her, it's brilliant, So it all depends on where you are in life and where you live geographically and where you are economically, and transportation matters. And I think diversification is a good thing.
Mm-hmm. So will we be seeing more of these scooters and mopeds and bicycles and so on? Or, as you suggest, will the move to the suburbs or the exurbs or whatever make everybody start buying more cars, and then that 15.8 number will be going up very high?
Well, that's the giant question, right? But right now, right? So think about in cities, the number one way that people get around are buses and then subways. And neither of those things are very popular right now. And so a lot of people have either displaced, they're going to scooters or walking or riding a bike instead. Bob Carter from Toyota was telling me today that he had a dealer in New York City that sold 3 Toyota Corollas to one family who never owned a car before. And it was because nobody in the family wanted to ride the subway anymore. And we're seeing that's some of what is helping the recovery in the auto industry through this pandemic, is that people are saying, I think I'll take my own car, thanks. But that is not sustainable. If you think about traffic and environment, economy, fuel economy, it's just bad all around. So I don't think it lasts forever, but I think it could last a while.
I think it'll last as long as there's no vaccine. And as soon as there's a vaccine that is effective for everybody, bang, we're going to snap right back to the way we were before.
So there'll be 3 used Corollas available.
Yeah, you guys have been in New York City. What a pain in the neck to own a car.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
And think how much worse the traffic has been in the last few years in New York. It's because all the ride-sharing services are adding to it. So It's been terrible in New York until now. Now you can go anywhere you want.
Right. Gary, you got anything else? We're coming up towards the top of the hour here.
No, I think we exhausted the list for this week.
Okay, real good. Well, Joann, thanks so much for joining us on the show. Great to have you on.
Yeah, good to see you guys, even if it's remote.
Right.
Thanks, Joann.
And Gary, next week we're going to be off. We should let everybody know.
Right.
But we'll be back the week after that, and that's when we will have Tim Herrick from General Motors talking all about their new full-size utilities, because he's the vice president of global product programs at GM.
Hey, great. Stay well, everyone.
Yeah, safe and sound, and so long for now.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Autoline After Hours is brought to you by Bridgestone Tires, your journey, our passion, and by Borg Warner, propulsion solutions that support a clean, energy-efficient world.
Visit our website, Autoline.tv, where you can watch us live Thursday afternoons. Get your daily fix with Autoline Daily and in-depth analysis and interviews with Autoline This Week. There's all that and much more at Autoline.tv.